demand is now starting to grow a little bit in boutique hotels. Like that's why I wanted to choose this time to do Boutique Hotel Con, which is the conference in the fall here at the hotel. But like I'm seeing more people get interested, more people that have the experience in the short-term rental space that now feasibly go buy their first boutique hotel, continue to scale, and then make that big stair-step jump in their portfolio, in their income, like earn financial freedom with one deal.
Nobody's born incredible. People who do incredible things simply took the right steps. This is our journey. This is the hunt for incredible. All right. On today's episode, we have a special guest, my man, Blake Dailey. Blake bought 6 hotels. He currently owns 2, so he's exited out of 4 of them. And he recently closed on a 130-unit property, and it has a wedding venue also, which I'm really excited to dive into. He has a boutique hotel mastermind and an upcoming boutique hotel conference called Boutique Hotel Con, which I think is maybe the first boutique hotel conference there is, right?
It is first of its kind.
Yeah, first of its kind. So we'll dive into that as well. Blake, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Glad to be here and jump into some of this stuff.
Hell yeah. So let's kick things off with where you currently are. So what your portfolio looks like and some of the things that you're working through.
Yes, we've got 160 units right now. It's 130 are the hotel here in Tennessee. We've got the wedding venue over 10 acres, 8 different buildings on this one location. Got a small 8-unit boutique hotel, which is the first one I bought down in the panhandle of Florida. It's in Fort Walton Beach, kind of by Destin, and Eglin Air Force Base, Holbrook Air Force Base. So that's kind of what drew me into it. I knew we'd have good clientele there, so close to the beach and the Air Force bases. Then we got a handful of houses in Florida and in Utah that are vacation rentals. Very nice,
very nice. Share with me a little bit about the Fort Walton area. Jackie and I went to a wedding down there. And this was a couple years ago. And so that's been on our short list of places that are very interesting to travel to. But I know that the short-term rental market is pretty fast and loose. Do you find that the competition with that boutique hotel is pretty rough, or is it not too bad with your offering?
I think across the panhandle of Florida, like Destin, Fort Walton Beach, it's like Santa Rosa 38 to like a lesser extent because they do have some regulation and permits there. But like Panama City Beach for sure is like a net negative. So there's just so much competition because regulations are so loose. Like they just implemented something like calendar year 24 at the start of this year that was basically new requirements where you have to put up like a list of rules, riptide stuff or rip currents and things like that, and like a phone number for your local manager. But there's still no legislation or regulation to limit the supply growth of STRs in that market. So like from when I first bought I bought my first ones there in 2019, but even when I bought my first hotel there in 2021, fast forward to like the middle of 2022, there had been like a 45% increase in listings over that time. So like from 10,000 to 14,000 and some change. So just crazy growth. And then you get in the low season in a market like that where it just shuts down, right? Like where you make your money is Memorial Day to Labor Day, like May through September. The rest of the year, very, very slow. Like there's a Ironman in November, and then there's like Bike Week in October, and that's it. Like January, February, December, extremely, extremely slow. Typically like cash flow negative times, but like my houses, I've got good bases on them, low, those 3%, 2.75% mortgages we love. So those still cash flow in the low season, but not much. But across the panhandle, like in these markets that have no Airbnb regulation, like the Smokies in Tennessee is similar. Like you can just get into the market. So it makes competition super fierce. You got to stand out with your design, your amenities, like the kind of property you buy and how you set it up. It takes money to do that. It takes experience to do that. So I think those ones are harder. I would really suggest, it sounds counterintuitive, but get into a regulated market like San Diego. Like people that I know there with STR permits, like do really, really well because it's now limited. Now they're like, going to get a marriage on paper or something so their wife can get the other STR unit, or getting one in their mom's name or whatever so they can continue to grow. Like it makes scaling really tough. You gotta navigate that. But for getting your first one, I think regulation is really helpful to like your earnings, but it also kicks a lot of people out. So that's where hotels come in, is like they don't follow that same regulation. So when as demand grows, supply's cut off, like people are still going to come there. It's just going to push rates up higher at these other Airbnbs that can have the permits. Hotels benefit from that as well. So we saw that in the Tahoe market where we operated, and they enacted legislation in 2021 when we bought. And it was a super big net positive because the listing supply went down. There's no shortage of demand to, South Lake with Lake Tahoe there and the ski resorts around. So it was a really positive thing. So that's my take on it. Like I'd be wary of Panhandle if you are going to buy, your first Airbnb or something run of the mill.
Yeah, we just closed on a 24-unit boutique hotel in Solvang, California, Central California wine country. And that market, a major selling point for us was those strict regulations. We were exclusively looking in markets that had those strict
Oh,
regulations.
dude, I would chase it for boutique hotels. Like that's
Yeah.
a great way to like narrow down your target market for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I'm also interested in markets that they've recently shifted. So like Dallas recently, as of like last year, shut down the residential STR space. So we're going to see a big uptick in boutique hotels. It would have been great to snag one. I'm sure that they're trying to correct for the pricing, and the market there's probably crazy.
Yeah, that'll be the
looked
next one. I
closely.
mean, New York's the same way, and as we go forward, like demand is now starting to grow a little bit in boutique hotels. Like that's why I wanted to choose this time to do Boutique Hotel Con, which is the conference in the fall here at the hotel. But like I'm seeing more people get interested, more people that have the experience in the short-term rental space that now feasibly go buy their first boutique hotel, continue to scale, and then make that big stair-step jump in their portfolio, in their income, like earn financial freedom with one deal. So like that's the whole goal of that. But as like this regulation keeps happening, we're not going to see less of it over time. Like with the way interest rates are, with housing affordability, with the way rates have gone up and are staying up, like housing is not affordable, and that regulation is meant to protect residential home purchase markets and also like residential rentals. So that's why these municipalities are doing that, is to protect their market from investors coming in and flooding up the prices, taking inventory offline that could be used for homeowners or for renters who live there, and just turning it into, that's the whole like houses not hotels movement. But as that continues, it's going to make a really good point in a lot of these markets that might be unattainable to get in now based on like your earnings potential. But if you slice whatever 20-50% plus of the inventory, that's going to push your rates up, and that could really, really make a good investment if you get in one of those markets.
Yeah, man. I I have a post where right when New York like set that ban, I looked up the stats on how that ban would impact the appreciation of hotels, and I called it out on social media, and then like 6 months later followed up with another post that I was within like 5% of my projections, because it was literally like the most fundamental supply and demand conversation, right? Where you get rid of supply, you maintain demand, and that price increase is going to be proportionate to the amount of supply removed with that maintained demand. So it's like these are like,
that's the cool thing, because like the hotels are commercial, right? So as your income goes up, the property values are going up. So if you cut off the supply and nothing changes with demand, people still travel. The ADRs, or the average daily rate, what they're charging for the rooms, goes up. That's going to increase their net operating income, which is how you're valued in the commercial space. So like as a hotel operator, you're making more, you're creating more equity. Like it's a great thing. So I like regulated markets.
Yeah, 100%.
I would love to see some more of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the unpopular opinion, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I personally prefer that we live in a less regulated market so that the little guy has an opportunity to climb and build portfolios and build momentum in life. In terms of making profit, it is easier to make profit in higher regulation markets where that barrier of entry is higher. And so it is more difficult you have to raise more capital and do certain things, but there is more profit there. So yeah, I mean, I'm torn on it. Like personally, for like my love of the world and of people, I believe in less regulation, but given that there are high regulation markets,
general, but as you apply it to the Airbnb market, like if you think about it, what it really does is adds a barrier to entry on like the admin and your research and your willingness to jump through the hoops to get one of these like exclusive permits to be able to operate in that area. And sometimes like, if it's a smaller area, people just aren't selling. So there's just not one available to get. But in these bigger markets, they change hands. You put in the application, you get it, and it's just capped at a certain limit. So I think like as far as that, it really helps the home pricing, like the affordability crisis there. I think that's the biggest net positive. It keeps home prices affordable, which is still like American citizens' number one store of wealth. So you think about that, it gives them more buying power, more equity to reinvest, spend in the economy, things like that. Like if all their money is not taken up by, or for all their disposable income is not taken up by the mortgage mortgage, they're spending more money traveling. They're spending more money buying products that makes the economy go. So I think for that purpose, right, this is a small piece of like broader, macroeconomic stuff, but I see it as a good thing. Plus, me and you buying boutique hotels, we get good deals off of it.
Yeah, no, 100% with you. So share a little bit about your story getting in, because a lot of people think that you need to get into real estate really early on and get a major, and it's like it's for a specific type of person that was born in certain circumstances or got into a certain position early on. But you took a less conventional route where it was your side gig and then you built it up until it became your full-time gig. So share a little bit about what that looked like.
Yeah, and I hope this like really helps to break down that barrier for people, because it doesn't take coming from, a real estate family or whatever from money, because I didn't come from either of those things. Like grew up with a single mom, grew up not necessarily in poverty, but not with a lot. And my desire drive, I think, to be an entrepreneur, and like that led me into real estate in the first place, is to want more for myself and for my own family, like growing up like that. So I think that's like a motivator to get into this. Like you don't need to be from a big background, and real estate's one of those things that you build wealth over time. It's not necessarily a get rich quick scheme like the Airbnb influencers would have you believe. I think like, oh, buy 1 to 3 properties, you're financially free in a year and you can sail around the world and do whatever. Like it's not really the fact of it. I don't think it's possible, but the path is buy good deals over time, stack those wins, hopefully roll that up into bigger deals, and you learn more along the way. You make better connections, your capital base from investors and your network grows, and you're able to take down bigger deals. And that's very much what's happened for me. So we started out, the first house we ever bought was 0 down, VA loan. Like I didn't have money when I started. Like 0 down was the only option I had to actually buy a house. So thank God for the VA loan. And we rented the extra unit, had a mother-in-law suite off the main house, and we rented that on Airbnb. So we learned hands-on, my wife and I, like how to service guests, and like really like learn the beginning of what is our hospitality business now, managing 160 units in 3 different states. And it's servicing guests, how you respond, the tone you set, how you brand your listing, how you design and set it up, how you turn it in the operations and order your supplies. We did the cleaning ourselves and really learned everything from a small scale in that first one. And then that allowed us to make money while we lived there for free. And we got put 0 down. So like we had like no money in this deal other than like our closing costs and furniture, made all that back in the first year. And we were cash flowing with this one guest unit. I was like, babe, I think we're onto something. We need to go buy some more main houses with guest houses, because we get 2 for 1, right? 2 rentable units for the price of 1 house, because real estate agents don't know this stuff. Like they're not pricing it as a multifamily. And a lot of times they wouldn't even include the square footage of the extra unit of the ADU, whatever it was, in the cost of the house. So like we're kind of getting that for free, which also makes it tough to get the appraisal and get the value, of it if you're doing a BRRRR and then you go to refi. But spending a lot of time, not say like politely arguing with appraisers will help that, providing them the comps, doing their job for them. So we built up our portfolio of those in that time frame. Also did some wholesales, did a flip, did a wholetail, did a couple of different low down strategies, just, finding what worked, finding what I like doing, and honestly just making enough cash to reinvest, to do buy and hold. And at the time I thought it was going to be long-term rentals. And, I built up that initial portfolio. The STRs is what got us, financially free. It was really our cash flow surpassing our W-2, because it wasn't necessarily freedom at that point, because I was still in the Air Force, still had 4 years of my commitment left at that time. So I was like, man, this was like the whole goal, to be able to, get out of the job one day when the 5-year commitment was up, but I did it in a year. So now I got to reassess my goals. So we jumped into the commercial side of real estate, and with multifamily apartments. So I bought my first commercial deal in 2021 as a 66 unit apartment complex. And through that whole process, like it was long. It took me 10 months to close that first deal, just to learn the commercial side, like how to underwrite deals, how to structure them, how to raise the capital, like, your 506B versus your 506C, and how you get investors in each way, how to raise money and just talk to people and get them to believe in you and invest in you. And then like the operation side and all of that. So we did the apartment complex, and then like this was on the verge of it getting very competitive. Like a lot of people were getting pushed out of the multifamily market as, hedge funds and big money buyers and all this like big capital was flowing into multifamily as like a hard asset. Everything was appreciating like crazy, and they're really hedging against the inflation at the time. So that was kind of like at a pivot point. Like I needed to do something else. I couldn't be very competitive in multifamily, but I knew short-term rentals. Like we'd built that portfolio and really did the operations ourselves and understood it really well. And then we had done the apartment complex and learned that side. Definitely not experts yet, but knew how to piece it all together and make it happen. So then I started looking at deals that could combine those two at hotels that we could either convert into multifamily or operate as they were as like these hybrid short-term rentals. And then that's what led to the first boutique hotel, that one in Fort Walton that we were talking about, the little 8-unit that, it was kind of like the bane of my existence because insurance went from like 8,000 to 41,000, and I would love to sell it, but it's the one that led into everything else and in getting the next 5 in the last 3 years. So that's kind of how we got here, and it just kept snowballing that. Like it was a single deal, a handful of deals, a commercial deal, then that first hotel. And they were like, oh, shoot, I think we got something here. And then, like, I think in the next 12 months, about the other 4 hotels.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we are in the midst of a gold rush for boutique hotels. There are multiple things stacked up that create such a killer opportunity. You have 10,000 baby boomers
Right.
retiring every day, and they own 25% of small businesses, including boutique hotels. So there's a lot of value add. The hotel that we just bought, it was run by a 90-year-old lady, and it was run the
Wow.
way you would imagine a 90-year-old lady would run it. It was like
Yeah,
very
physical
quaint.
keys,
Yeah,
phone
physical metal
reservations.
keys, hand-drawn maps with where the room was, doors
Oh,
closed. They
wow.
didn't accept bookings after 5 o'clock, like
Dude,
not
those are the ones
online,
you
not over
love
the
to
phone or
buy, though.
anything. Oh,
Did you also get seller financing?
yeah, we did. We got seller
Oh, yeah.
financing at
Lined
5%,
it up perfect.
and it was like, so when we were running our numbers, there was so much operational upside. We're going to end up putting about $1 million into the renovations as well, but there was so much operational upside that once we closed and we actually got in there to see what we were dealing with, we found even more low-hanging fruit. So they didn't have any
Mm-hmm.
variable pricing. It was the same pricing. Weekends were higher than weekdays, but it was the same year round. And
Yep.
just loads of little things like that, that once we made those adjustments, now we're actually really close to our post renovation numbers, and we haven't even started renovations yet. So
Oh,
we're
that's
we're
huge.
super
Yeah, when you
excited.
when you find deals like that, like everything kind of lines up perfectly. And for like those listening, you'd be surprised how many deals there are like that out there. Like so, done 6 hotel deals, 3 have been seller financed, all but 1 or maybe 2 have been like that, like very static pricing, weekday and weekend pricing. If they really do that at all, just here's the price, you pay it or you don't. And there's so much operational stuff. And as a short-term rental investor scaling into this side, like you guys already understand smart locks. You understand dynamic pricing and using price labs or wheelhouse to manage your rates and out earn your competition. Like you already know how to integrate a PMS, hopefully, right, and connect all your stuff and have your integrated inbox and your integrated calendar. Like those are the same foundational skills that you're going to take into boutique hotels. And now it just gets a little bit more operationally complex with how you service what, like you said, 24 units, so 24 different guest groups potentially at one time using the same property, the same space, parking, like your permits, your licenses, your renovation scope, and how you do a commercial project. Like that stuff gets more detailed, and we'll have some learning curve there. But like you said, like you found a good deal. And if you find a deal that good, you can figure the rest of the shit out. Like
Yeah.
it'll kind of fall into place as you just like get punched in the mouth by it, and you're like, oh, okay, we'll learn that lesson and we'll fix it. But you have the margin because these deals are so good, as long as you structure it and buy right.
Yeah, yeah. And not only that, but when you have enough meat on the bones, you can, if you don't know how to do something, you can just bring somebody in and like subsidize whatever fee they charge. Like, so we are using a third party property management company, and they are fantastic. And we're able to afford them because of how much upside there was from this great deal that we ended up closing on. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
taking a much more like private equity approach of just finding a great asset and bringing people in. I would love to get better at the operational side, like you. Like you've got, sounds like you have your management dialed in, so you can really, really add a lot to that NOI and add
Yeah,
value,
we're
which
good
is
at the
cool.
boutique hotels, man. Because like my whole thing is like these. What's your property manager charging you?
It's 4%, but we have like a fixed fee on top of that. So it's whichever one's less. And I think right now, once we double the value of the property, we'll get it down to that 4% rate. But right now we're
And
paying
then do they
about
have like incentive fees and stuff like that, or like of performance or anything?
No, we don't have incentives structured into that other than, yeah, once we hit about 2.1 million a year, then like their profit actually goes up. So we have the incentive aligned up
So you guys are
there, but
so you guys are telling me you're tracking and do like a million up to 2 million over like the renovation time frame. They're charging 4%. It's like 40 grand up to potentially 80 grand, and they're doing that whole hotel for that.
yeah,
Like messaging guests, managing cleaners,
yeah,
calendars, all that stuff.
yeah.
Damn. Well, you got yourself a good deal because most like charge like 10, 15, 20%.
Oh,
You know, on that.
yeah,
So I might need to find this company and like I don't know. They might not make money, so make sure that they have enough margin to stay happy and stay on this
yeah,
thing. But I was gonna say like if you're gonna instead of paying another manager who probably isn't gonna know the ins and outs of a boutique hotel, especially if you like hire a Airbnb management company or STR management company, they're not going to know like those operational complexities and they're going to have to learn. They're going to make a lot of mistakes and you're going to pay them 20% to do that. Like it just doesn't make sense to me, and that's kind of what we figured out early. So from day one, with the first hotel purchase, we built our in-house team, have property managers, like our W-2 employees that are at the properties. As we scale in the market, we'll bring maintenance in-house. The only things we contract out now are the marketing, essentially, our
mm,
agencies for our lead funnel for the hotel side and for the venue. But yeah, I mean, you found a really good deal. I think for most people, it's going to benefit them to do it themselves because they're not going to have managers who really know what they're doing or be able to step into something that's really different than 24 Airbnbs in that same market is going to operate differently than 24 unit hotel units at the same property, like how your rates are structured, all that kind of stuff, your operations on site. Not to say it's like crazy nobody can figure it out. Like there's definitely things that you can put in place, and we've done this over 6 hotels now, so we know what to do. But that would concern me about bringing in the company. But if they're going to do 4%, like shoot, I'll pay you guys 40 grand to figure it out.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And I actually know somebody who their approach was really interesting. They hired a property management company and shadowed them and learned everything. And they set the expectation up front where they said, okay, come manage the property, get everything set up. I'm going to pay you a percentage. I think it was like 10 to 15%, like you're mentioning. I'm going to pay you a percentage. And then I eventually want to take over and I will pay you like an advisory fee, which is like a
Mm-hmm.
retainer, which was, I thought, a really interesting way to get jump started into the space because there are so many little nuances that you don't think about. Like, for example, I was
Yeah.
talking to the property manager and we were deciding between paper cups for coffee in the rooms versus the mugs. And the big question that came up was, okay, the time to actually wash all the mugs and like
Mm-hmm.
why you can't wash it in the sink in the rooms, but you actually have to take it to like a proper facility to get it washed for sanitation reasons and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah.
like for
Health
me,
department stuff, dude. It starts coming up.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Like our short term rentals that we own, we have 4 short term rentals. Our cleaners just go ahead and they don't. They're older properties, so they don't have dishwashers inside. So our cleaners just hand wash anything that's not done. And so I asked, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, why don't we just hand wash it?" And she looked at me like I had 2 heads and was like, "You can't do that." And that's something that like would never have
Yeah.
even crossed
Yeah,
my
it's the little
mind.
things that like all come together to make a hotel run smoothly. Like all the things that 90-year-old lady handing out physical keys doesn't really have to worry about because
Yeah,
the expectations lower, the income's lower. Like you're just there to lay your head. You're not there for an experience, and that's where I think the cool opportunity lies with boutique hotels. Is you're really making a smooth booking experience. You're appealing to people who would both book an Airbnb and a hotel. Like you're the hybrid. You have like the good of both, and you really mitigate against the negative points of each, and you just get a lot of like consumer base to come into you as long as you have like your listing distribution set up correctly to where people can find you. And then it's just a matter of like creating that cool experience that makes it truly a boutique hotel, and then you're not competing based on the price or the rates of other places in the area. You kind of set your own standard because you are different. Like you are a small unique independent hotel that's offering something different than all the
right.
other local places, and that's the cool part.
Right. Yeah, you're spot on. I do want to spend some time talking about your acquisition strategy because 6 hotels within a few years is incredibly fast. So, what was your strategy that enabled you to get A, such good deal flow, and B, such killer financing and all that jazz so that you could actually acquire at such a crazy rate?
I think it was different in different phases along that journey. So in the beginning, like making the transition from like the residential Airbnbs and the apartment complex into that first hotel, it was just finding something that I thought would fit. Like it was finding something that I could afford and that I thought would work, because I really didn't have the model proven out. Like there wasn't anybody doing it like this yet, and there wasn't a place to go learn boutique hotels. So I was like, I'm kind of taking a risk here, because do people want to stay next to each other in an Airbnb? Like it's a little different. So I just wanted to find something that was feasible, like $1 million or under. And the one thankfully I found was like 357,000, and I got it financed with 10% down. So I put $37,000 down to get into this hotel deal at 4% interest. So like I can make that work. I'm pretty sure I can make that work. Even if I fall flat on my face, we've got the margin to get through this. And that's kind of exactly what I did. Like this was closed right at the beginning of COVID, or like when all like the supply chain shortages were happening. People were getting stimulus checks, so they weren't going to work. I couldn't get contractors to show up. I couldn't get any of my materials going on or to get in. So this took a year longer than I thought it would. And thankfully, like the one thing that saved me is like having the initial margin with a good purchase, and then just real estate appreciating and really all over, but like the Panhandle of Florida at that point over that time. So I was still able to refinance, get all my investor capital back, and hold it for cash flow, which was always the plan. So we completed the BRRRR. So that's what I was doing in the beginning. I was just looking for something that was within my realm of possibility, that was a stretch for me, knowing that this is the strategy I wanted to go with, before I even really had a full idea of what the strategy was going to be. But now, like we see the path, having closed multiple of them, you as well, like seeing, having different people that have done this since you bought your first one. So it kind of like sheds light on, all right, this is a real thing now.
Right.
And then from there, it was about getting the level of efficiency and the economies of scales we got with that first purchase, going from like 11 or 12 units to those 8 all in one location with the on-site laundry and just everything there. Like it was easier to run than my other short-term rentals that were all spread out. So we bought one in Panama City because I started talking about that one. Like I ran a meetup at the time. So like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Like the numbers look really, really good on this thing. Like I'm doing boutique hotels now, I guess. And then somebody sent me a lead out of my network. So I'd have 30, 40, 50 people come to this meetup every month. And I was giving updates on what I was doing, kind of being the leader up in the front, active on whatever Facebook and the group we had. So like people knew what I was doing. I, had connections in the local market. And for you guys, like I found my first 3 deals without a broker. So you can make connections, know what you're going to buy, know what your criteria is. In an asset class like this, there's not many people out there looking for these small value add, boutique hotels or, old hospitality properties or old cabin communities or motels that need renovated, need fresh updates, and, need a lot of work and redesign to make happen. So you're going to stand out. So like talk about what you're doing, and you'll start to get more leads than you would without doing that. So that's how I got the next one in Panama City Beach. The one right after that, we kind of bought these all together. One right after that, I found on LoopNet that was just a picture of the property appraiser site, like the outline of the property with dimensions, like what you pull off the property appraiser site. The worst listing I've literally ever seen in my life. Like the broker just put it up there to probably appease the seller. Is a hard guy to work with, very, very particular. And it's probably like, all right, putting it up there. Literally this, like they say, LoopNet's where the place where deals go to die. This one went there to die, and I, had to resuscitate it and bring some life back in. And because of those leads that we had there, my partner at the time lived in Northern California by Sacramento, which is close to Tahoe, and a deal came up, and I was like, we need something to kind of balance our seasonality. Like, look out there, that's high in the high season, which is Panama City in the winter is just dead. So like with ski season there, it'll help flatten them out. He found one. I was like, dude, go see it. Go like 2 day. Talk to the seller. We got that one seller financed. So it's really like trying to piece together what a good portfolio would look like. We had pretty low purchase prices. The 2 in Panama City were $950 and $1.1 million, so $2 million essentially all together. The one out in Tahoe was $2 million, and then we got those seller finance and then hard money for the other ones. So commercial hard money, and at the time it was like 20% loan to cost. So all in, we needed to raise like $1.5 million. We put in, I think like 10% of that, 150 of that together, and then raised the other 1.3 from 2 people. And then our next one in Tahoe came because we knew we had the 2 in Panama City Beach. We could spread out the cost. Like we needed that level of scale and efficiency in both of our markets to match like our, our operation structure, and keep me as like the main, operator and, deal finder out of doing everything, so I could focus on running the business, growing, the culture and the team, and, finding the next deal. So we bought that second one in Tahoe. This is, the fifth total. Seller financing as well. I think it was 10 or 15% down. This one was 6% interest. And then we, just scaled our team. Then we had in-house property manager, assistant property manager, maintenance, our cleaning staff, our back-end VAs. And like at that scale, it gets very, very easy, in my opinion, to operate because you have the structure, you have the systems in place.
Right.
So that's what we were looking for. Like, so it started out just find whatever. And then, now this is what we're looking for. Kind of here's our criteria, start telling everybody. And then it was trying to piece in the right pieces to build out the portfolio in a sustainably scalable way. Like I didn't want to burn myself out and, now go buy one in Georgia or go buy one in whatever Joshua Tree. Like I wanted to focus on our core markets because they're good hospitality markets, and just be the guy doing that thing in that market, and stuff will flow to you.
Okay, so once you got into that market, is that what built a lot of momentum with the brokers, et cetera, in that area to
Oh yeah,
actually create deals
100%.
for you?
Yeah. Like once people start seeing what you're doing, especially if you take something like an old, ugly beachside motel and turn it into something pretty freaking cool, like on the back end of that renovation, like everybody knows, like properties like that, they bring in the wrong clientele. They disturb the areas that they're in. Like people don't like him. City zoning and code enforcement hate those kind of properties. So as you start to, as you buy these places, start to renovate them, you're going to have the health department inspectors come out. You're going to probably have the fire department, the building department, like make good with all those people. And then the brokers, like you can even invite them out to come check it out. And word starts to get around as long as you, kind of are intentional about this, about what you're doing with that place. And then you become the go-to person of, hey, there's another one. Let's send it to Blake because we know he can do this.
Right. How did you manage your time being in the Air Force, managing and stabilizing properties while hunting for new deals?
Ooh, man, there was a time where we had like literally all 5 hotels were under some phase of renovation all at the same time. So like ones were wrapping up, ones were just going live and getting the last bits of furniture, others were just doing demo. Like it was the wildest probably point of my life, and still had the full-time Air Force job. Some were across the country, some were close to me, some were an hour away. I think for me, it was just about knowing what is most important to get done today. And then I'm a pretty big stickler on like what I say yes and what I say no to. And always like this has just been my thing, is like to wake up early, get the important stuff done in the early hours when it's still dark, nobody's up, nobody's emailing me, my phone's not buzzing, because I'm the kind of person that hates seeing text notifications. And if it's there, like I've got to read it and respond to it. So like I'm the best person to text because I will text you back, but I hate having to like do that. And my mom would probably disagree with me. She's like, "You never answer my calls." I'm like, "You just always call me when I'm on a podcast or something." So I structure my days to where I get like my important work, like projects or whatever, ideally done in the morning. And then I work through my day. I got to say no to a lot of stuff and really just delegating and building the team. So that's what I've been really intent on, is like, I don't want to have to do a task or own or control a process for too long. Like I want to get the person in, train them, first like document what I'm doing, package that all up, find the person, train them on doing it, and then just manage them. So then like I just systematically take things off my plate, give it to them. And now instead of doing it, it takes me 10 hours a week. Managing it takes an hour or less per week. So then I, do that with each task in the business. First it was messaging guests, and then it was all our, our refunds and our resolutions and kind of the back end of kind of guest services. And then it was the actual property stuff of, the check-ins, the cleans, the turnovers, and delegating the responsibility of that to the property managers. And then it became, really running the company as I hired the director of operations. Now they run the weekly meetings, and then they meet with me weekly. So now I've got, less people to manage. I can be more focused on the higher value, more productive work to push the business forward. And that happened over like 18 months to 2 years. So that wasn't a quick process. Like there was a long stretch of time in there or I just felt like I was beating my head against the desk. Like I feel like shit. I feel like I'm not getting anything done. When you're in the middle of the grind, you don't really see the progress that's being made.
Right.
But when you focus on actually getting the things done that will push you forward that you need to get done, things actually progress. It doesn't feel comfortable in the beginning. You feel like you are the one man show. You have to do everything. Like this email needs responded to. Does it? Like I've got to message this person back that, message me on Facebook Messenger. Do you? Like, no, just put that stuff off. If you got time at the end of the day, get back to it then, but do your shit like that needs done. That, now you put it on yourself of like, the team's relying on me. I've got investors. They're relying on me. Like I've got to get this done. It's just a repetition of like delegating and getting out of stuff and then transitioning to a manager and a leader. And if you can manage people and lead them towards the vision and kind of buy them in and share that with them, have them as owners in your vision of what you guys are completing, then they work harder for you as well. And then your effect becomes multiplied throughout the company. So that's when it starts getting really fun, which is where we're at now. Is where like I feel like I'm in a version of that phase now of just trying to get this construction loan, the USDA loan closed. It's $9.5 million loan. So there's a ton of red tape and bureaucracy with this government loan. So I'm in that a lot. And then there's just a lot of, operational improvements going across the hotel, but it's just one by one. Like, all right, this is your task now. Or like, all right, we'll talk about this, train you up on it. You're doing that now. So I'm in the middle of again, and you just go through these stair steps, right? You get up to $1 million in revenue and you've got, one structure. You got to delegate yourself out, get out of it, get up to the next tier at $2-3 million. You got to bring on more people and more. And now we're getting to that same thing as we kind of eclipse that.
That's awesome. How does your social media fit into all of this? What value is that subsidizing right now?
That's a good question. I think it's probably changed too. I think in the beginning, it was more of showing what I was doing to say like, hey, this is what you can do, right? Like just showing, kind of shedding light on the path, and just always being one, curious to try new things. And then two, showing people that like the hard work and stuff that you put in does pay off in a real way, especially if you're doing something that, other people want to do. Like when you drive past a hotel on the beach, like if you like real estate at all, you're like, man, I want to own that one day, right? It's just like what you feel. Or you go stay at an all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean or whatever, you're like, man, I would love to own this property. So if you've got that natural inclination like I do, like you just want to know that it's possible and that it's not just the wealth managers or, the REITs of the world that can buy properties like that. You want to think of a way you can scale up and get yourself there over time. So that's kind of how I always saw it. I was like, I wanted to give back. And I think it's always been a way to connect with people as well, to show people what you're doing, and it attracts people to you who resonate with that. So maybe it's brokers who have a lead and they're like, oh, I see this guy, doing a hotel renovation. I'll hit him up. Like we found brokers that way and we've got deals that way. Or maybe it's investors. Like I like that. I would like to invest in hotels, but I don't want to do the work. I'm happy to let Blake do all the work. Like, let me hit him up about that. So those are two big ways is to get more people in your sphere that you can grow and they grow at the same time. So it's not growing at the expense of other people, but if you're going to bring investors, brokers, like you're doing business with people as you guys grow together. So I really like that aspect of it. Like now that I've been through that phase of buying the first hotel, buying the first 5, now buying this once 130 units that I did not think was even remotely possible when I bought my first hotel deal. Like this being such a good deal, if you would have showed me this 4 years ago, I would have been like, there's literally no way. It wouldn't even be a good use of my time. I would run it into the ground and wouldn't know what to do with it. So just like the growth I've seen myself, I want to show that, like give that to other people, right? Like you can buy, like it can be your first STR. Like I just still do STR stuff and, tell people about like how you can, leverage low down loans and house hack with you to get your first short-term rental like I did and scale up. Cause it's like this whole spectrum now of experience that I have. And I'm trying to, when I like do a video or do a post or whatever, kind of think of it from the lens of what would help me 3 years ago or what would help me a year ago, like, cause I think other people are going to have those same questions. They're going to have those same roadblocks or same, wants that they want to get there in the first place. And I'm trying to talk to that person. And I think like the same effect as you find that voice a little bit better, as like start to figure out like the social media stuff behind it of what actually gets engagement, gets views, gets likes, that allows you to get more reach to help more people. So that's kind of how I see it now. Like the more I can be active and grow on social media, that's the more people that can get into into my world that I can help. I think there's a lot of people out there that do social media, they're influencers, whatever, and it's like a very selfish mindset. Like I'm trying to get my bag at expense of somebody else. I think like, me and you could probably sit here and name off people until we fell asleep tonight of like social media profiles that are like that. So like what I really try to do is just give it real. Like I'll talk about the bad shit all day long, the mistakes I did, like doing my first capital call because I didn't know how to underwrite hotel deals. And like we were about to run out of money in the low season because we looked at it as annual instead of monthly. And when you are dealing with tens of thousands instead of like 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, that stuff adds up. So I talk about all that stuff and just try to give a real look and say, hey, this is how it is. If you like it, it's here to help. If you don't, cool, keep scrolling.
Yeah, man. Your authenticity on your account is palpable. 100%. 100%. It's the real deal. And that's amazing because that's what I think is getting noticed more and more on social media. Like it used to be this like flashy
Yeah,
ADD
that's what I was gonna say.
attention
The flash.
grabbing. And I think like the more like calm, composed, honest type of content is starting to gain a lot more traction. It's starting to be rewarded a lot more, which is good because those are the types of things that should be rewarded.
Yeah, dude. If you like scroll back a little bit, like a year, all my stuff was just like talking head videos. It was like, here is the most valuable piece of information that I can give you in 30 to 60 seconds. Take it and run with it. Like I swear that stuff was probably more valuable potentially like than the stuff I'm doing now. Now it's like, like reaching more people, which I think is like a cool thing. So like more people get the stuff. But it was just like looking back, it's just the most boring, plain, silly video. But I was just doing it like taking whatever an hour out of my day on a Saturday to think of some ideas throughout the week, write them down, put some thought to it on an hour time block on Saturdays and record them just to like get it out there to help people to be an authentic voice of, how to grow doing this stuff. Cause there's people that do social media so much better than me. I don't even think I'm that good at it. Like I've just got a little bit of a bump with like a few posts that have done really, really good. So I'm by no means an expert at it, but my whole take on it is just the real look into what it takes to operate business at this scale. I think there's a lot of things I could say or do that would be like, oh, boutique hotels are the best thing. Like everybody should get into a boutique hotel. Like here's how you earn financial freedom or stuff or whatever it is. And just all of it be salesy. It's like to get people into like a funnel or whatever. But that's just not how I am, and it's not how I want it to be. So I think social media is a tool that can be used to be helpful on both sides. And I think a lot of time when people's like holding the camera, looking into it, recording, it's just like they see themselves like, how does this help me? But you got to
Right.
think about the person on the other side of that camera. How does that help them? And I think that is how you truly grow, is like keeping who's listening in mind. And the easiest way is just like, what would help me? Like what did I have? What questions did I have that I would have thought valuable a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever, to help me with what I was going through at that time? Hopefully, like, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully that does well over time. It's not doing like super great for me in the interim, but this is what I believe in.
Yeah, I will say though, I've seen there are actually quite a few studies that are coming out now, data-driven studies that talk about when you are creating that educational, meaningful, value add content, even though the reach tends to be lower, the quality of people that resonate with you, not the quality of them, but the quality of the resonation and connection tends to be higher because there's a difference between people who are on social media because they're trying to learn something and following accounts that they'll learn from versus people that are just trying to be entertained and get that dopamine spike. So
Right.
like putting
Yeah.
out
Two
quality
different
content
segments
and
for
getting
sure.
the 100%. Hormozy talks about this, but there are also other studies that maybe I'll look up and link in the show notes.
No, my whole goal with it, dude, is like like if you see a video of mine online, YouTube, Instagram, whatever it is, and like you met me in person or at an event, you'd be like, oh, dude, he's just like he was on the video, or like he's just as helpful, or even more so, or like hopefully it's like, oh man, he's as cool as I expected him to be. And if you guys are listening, if you guys meet me and you're like, man, you're such a douche in person, or like on video, whichever way it is, just let me know. So I'm trying like those to be the same person. Like I don't want to shift my personality to go do a video because I don't really give a shit to do that. Like I think I think just over time, if you put out good value and you do the right thing, over the course of time. Like I'm playing, in my mind, it's a decade long game of like the personal brand and like what I'm all about. So I'm not really too worried about getting like hyper viral growth with, doing a dance where I look like a jackass right now.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we always wrap up with this question or a version of this question. What do you believe people should be asking themselves in order to be successful in this space?
So I think I'm a true believer in, if you're trying to make more money, financial freedom, like build your portfolio, like change your life in that way financially through business, through this podcast, through real estate, whatever, that your income is a reflection of the value you give. So if you're not making enough money, you're not giving enough value. And that's like in the entrepreneurial space. Like if you're a W-2 employee, like go get the promotion or do that project or whatever. But if you want to be an entrepreneur and grow, what you make is a reflection of how much value you give. So if you look internally and ask yourself, like, how valuable is this to someone? Do I have something that I can create? Do I have a problem that I can solve? Like, what value do you have to give people that they would pay you money for it? And like, hopefully not like, change yourself and sell your soul in the process of doing that. So I think just look internally, ask yourself, what value do I have to provide to others? Leverage that, build that skill set even more so that it becomes more valuable so you can make more and actually achieve your goals. If you try to do the same thing and you're not getting it, change what you're doing, right? And then it's just a matter of repetition. Like get in your reps, just like going to the gym. If you fall down, if you get hit, take on the chin. Failure is just another learning lesson. So like keep going.
I love it. Blake, where can people find you?
Instagram would be the best way. I'm also doing like more stuff on YouTube, more hotel tours, more deep dives into boutique hotels on YouTube. So Instagram is at Blake J Dailey. YouTube is at Blake Dailey. So you can find me any of those.
And then where can people find information on your boutique hotel con?
Yeah, so Boutique Hotel Con is coming up September 13th through the 15th, and that's boutiquehotelcon.com. We're doing it at the hotel here. We're recording here right now. So we're going to be in the venue doing the conference, and then everybody will be staying at the hotel that buys tickets. So the tickets include the lodging, the food, the drinks for the weekend. We're going to have open bar on Friday and Saturday. Our renovations will be done. We'll get to see the new amenities, the new rooms, and actually see a boutique hotel in progress. So I think it'll be like a really special environment to like actually get to tangibly see what the conference is all about. So if you want to check that out, you can go to boutiquehotelcon.com.
Awesome. Hell yeah. Blake, thank you so much for being on the show.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.